And chat. How's it going, guys? Welcome back to Root Double Before Crime After Days, where we are in the middle of another flashback series. Oh boy, we are getting new information from this. Getting some real backstory on Watase, who is much more interesting than Natsuhiko. But we're in flashbacks still. It occurred to me while I was getting set up today that we haven't seen the dating sim values mechanic since Route B. Which means we haven't had anything resembling gameplay in the last, 12 hours. No branching paths, no potential pitfalls or game overs, just straight up novel. No gameplay. Okay. Something unexpected happened. Watase had woken up from a bizarre dream he'd had that night. What was that all about? In the dream, he'd been in a town in some foreign country. He had been desperately running for his life from the flames that were engulfing the town. But no matter how hard he ran, the flames just kept on chasing him. Watase was soon surrounded by flames and smoke that filled the air around him. What a horrible dream, but why was I in a foreign country? Watase tried to go back to sleep as he vaguely wondered that. But at that moment, his nose caught the stench of what smelled like something burning. Am I dreaming again? No. Watase suddenly sat right up. He wasn't dreaming. That stench of smoke was clearly all too real. What's more, the sound of the fire alarm was echoing around him like crazy. Took him a second to notice. How did it take him a second to notice? Oh, that's awful. Please tell me that isn't going to play for the entire scene. A fire has broken out in the hospital. All patients and visitors, please evacuate as soon as possible. This is not a drill. Everyone in the facility, please evacuate as soon as possible. The robotic announcement explained the situation in a detached voice. Watase felt himself shaking like crazy at those words. Crap. With the cast around his leg, Watase couldn't move at all. I mean, he could limp. So that meant when the fire reached his room, I'm gonna die? Okay. Alright. Someone with a cast on can leave their bed and at minimum limp or hop around. I'm gonna die? Oh shit, I've gotta get out of here. Watase dragged his left leg and crept out of his bed. His room was on the 7th floor. He couldn't escape through the windows. But when he opened the door to his room, the hallway was already consumed in flames, and he's going to get saved by rescue workers, and it'll make him idolize them. Watase frantically shut the door. He had no chance of weaving his way through the flames with the condition his leg was in. If a nurse or someone doesn't get here before the fire does, then I'm... Help! Is anybody there? Help me! Someone help me! But no one came by, no matter how much he yelled. The nurse call button wasn't responding either. Perhaps the doctors and nurses had abandoned Watase and the other patients and had already evacuated. It wasn't long before smoke began seeping in from around the edges of the shut door. Watase coughed violently. He frantically opened the window, but the smoke was filling the room faster than it could escape it. It only grew thicker as time continued to pass. Just then, Watase thought he heard something burst open. The fire had probably already reached the room. I'm in deep shit here. If things stay the same, then in just a few minutes I'll be dead. The fear of death gradually weighed down on Watase's mind. Someone. He tried calling for help, but he couldn't speak anymore. With no other idea of what to do, Watase was about to break the window and jump out when... Watase! Oh no, his sister came in and tried to save him. Oh no, is she gonna die here? He heard her voice. He turned around in shock to see Wataru open the door and run into the room. What? How? I came to save you when I saw the smoke rising from the hospital. The firefighters are taking too long to get here. You'll die if you keep waiting in here for help. So let's get out of here. How did you get through the fire? Right. There wasn't any time to think. Watase grabbed on to Wataru's shoulder and left his room. The hallway was already wrapped up by flames. The twins weaved their way through them and ran away. But the staircase was completely blocked by flames. Watase and Wataru were stuck on the 4th floor. Ugh. Wataru broke into a violent coughing fit. She'd probably exhausted her stamina while dragging Watase through the fire. If this keeps up, then Wataru will die too, all because of me. Once he realized that, Watase forced himself to speak. Wataru, leave me and save yourself. What are you saying? There's no way in hell I can do that. Didn't I tell you that if you were in grave danger, I'd save you even if it cost me my life? But we'll both die at this rate. You might still have a chance to get out of here by yourself. A light sparked in Wataru's eyes when she heard Watase mutter that. Watase, you can't give up. You have to keep fighting on and on until the bitter end. If you want to die, you can do that later. Wataru shouted and tightened her grip around Watase's arm, then broke off into a mad dash, leaving Watase behind, hobbling and falling on his face. They soon discovered an emergency staircase that was undamaged by the fire. They ran down it, and soon found the exit to the hospital coming into view. Look, Watase, it's the exit! Right. It was only a hair's breadth away. They hadn't noticed earlier, but now they could hear fire truck sirens closing in, too. We're saved! He then tried to move towards the exit with Wataru as he thought that. Only to hear the unpleasant sound of something creaking above them. Oh, she's about to die. He looked up in surprise to see cracks forming in the ceiling. The cracks spread wider in an instant, causing the concrete ceiling to bend swiftly. It's crumbling down! As soon as Watase thought that. Watase! Wataru pushed him towards the exit. Watase fell on the ground outside the hospital. What he saw before him was a perfect starry sky. And what he heard was the roar of something collapsing. Huh? Watase looked into the hospital from the exit. Where Wataru had been standing moments ago was now a burning pile of debris. Wataru? No response. Wataru! No response. Wataru! Watase screamed and limped over to the mountain of debris. Wataru, you're still there, right? Answer me! Wataru! Wataru! Before long, a response appeared. In the form of a stream of blood flowing out from under the debris. It can't be! Stop it! Why did this... Watase began randomly moving debris as he rambled incoherently in a hollow voice. Wataru, Wataru, Wataru. The debris was lit with flames, hot enough to burn anyone who touched it. But Watase ignored the pain and kept picking up debris and tossing it aside. He soon heard a voice from behind. We've located a survivor! It was probably a firefighter. Watase ignored them and kept working on his attempts to rescue Wataru. Hey, what are you doing? The firefighter ran over to Watase after noticing something was clearly wrong with the boy. Yeah, I'll bet he thinks communicators are responsible for the fire and that's why he hates them so much. It's dangerous. Get back. You'll catch fire. The firefighter grabbed Watase by the shoulder. Watase shook off his hand and shouted, Out of my way! Wataru's under this debris! What? Someone's under this! No, then we'll take care of the rescue. Shut up! I can't leave it up to you guys! This is all your fault, because you didn't get here faster! Wataru's! Watase's deranged screams echoed through the night sky. Watase was restrained shortly afterwards. The firefighters managed to pull Wataru out from under the rubble. A mangled mess, but by that point, she had long since breathed her last. The Great Rokume City Arson. Oh, right, we heard about this. Hang on. It's G? Okay. The Great Rokume City Arson. We heard about this, I think. We don't have a tip about it. God damn it. Okay. Nope, I will not quit game. The Great Rokume City Arson. That was what the events of that night would come to be called. Excuse me. September 16th, 2014. Fires broke out all at the same time at 15 different spots in Rokume City. Starting with the Rokume City Hospital, various buildings such as civilian residences, public facilities, multi-tenant buildings, even the apartment building where Watase's family lived were indiscriminately set fire to and were burned down in that one single night. 118 casualties, 236 injured. Among the casualties were not only Wataru, his family too, but Watase's parents as well. The culprit was soon caught. It appeared the crime was committed by an extremist group. It was said that the arson had been committed as a demonstration against the rapidly growing communicator population. So how's that translated to him hating communicators? But Watase didn't care about any of that. He just couldn't come to grips with the fact that he had lost everything in a single night. 2 months had passed. Watase stood still in front of the ruins of the burned-down hospital. This is where Wataru... Though he thought that, he no longer had any tears to shed. Though the cast around his leg had already been removed, his emotional scars hadn't healed. We didn't even get to say anything to each other when she left. Why did she give up her life for someone like me? It pained him that he alone had lived while the rest of his family had died. Hey, Okia, how's it going? Simply living felt like agony to him. Wataru lived for her dreams and the things she wanted to do. So why is it that someone with no hopes for the future like me survived instead of her? Are we in a flashback? We are in a flashback, yeah. We're seeing Watase's life story and how he got to the point he's at, as Natsuhiko restores his memories. He'd been asking himself that question endlessly for the last 2 months. He'd thought he might be able to find an answer if he came to this place, but naturally, he didn't. Tell me, Wataru, what am I supposed to do now? The moment that thought crossed his mind, his cell phone suddenly rang. Watase slowly picked up the phone. A familiar voice came across the other line. A pleasure calling you. This is Fujimoto of the Rokame City Public Welfare Division. Hello? After the Great Arson, the victims of the fire had been given all sorts of accommodations by the city's Public Welfare Division. They had covered Watase's transfer to another hospital and other such procedures while he was still recovering from his broken leg. The one on the phone was his sponsor in the Public Welfare Division. Due to the effects of this incident, we at Rokame City have decided to aid the bereaved families of the victims as much as possible. In accordance with crime victim support laws, minors will be supplied with residences and welfare. Thank you very much. So Natsuhiko and Watase grew up living on their own, sort of. Watase replied indifferently to the worker's pensive voice. After a brief silence, the worker continued in a quiet voice. Shut up, Windows Virus and Threat Protection. We plan to settle things so that you have nothing to worry about in your life and future. My future? For example, you will be able to return to high school, and we shall assist you if you wish to go on to college. We shall also assist you in getting the job of your choice should you desire to be self-reliant. Do you have any plans for the future? As soon as Watase heard that, Wataru's words replayed in his mind. Saving someone's life means protecting their future. I just find that to be so incredibly noble. The moment he remembered those words, Watase's mouth instinctively began moving. I'll be a rescue worker. That was the only way he could even hope to repay Wataru for saving his life. I'll fulfill Wataru's dream. That was the moment when he decided on his path in life. Alright, flashback 1 complete. With Wataru's death as the trigger, Watase decided to become a rescue worker. A long time had passed since that day. Much like before, Natsuhiko could instinctively tell how much time had passed as if they were his own memories. So it's been 7 years since then. To thank her for saving my life, I will live her life instead of mine. Yeah, that's not a healthy way to approach grief. The thing he saw was a memory of 9 years ago, when Watase was 23 years old. Watase was training his body that morning, just like he did every other day. The sound of him counting his push-ups echoed through the dim room. 195, 196, 197. Eroica, hero. Where'd the tea go? His breath was calm and orderly, with not a single bit of exhaustion to be found. 200. I don't know if I could do 30 push-ups, let alone 200. Watase stopped once he'd counted to 200. Whew! Watase stood alone in his room, not a bead of sweat on his face. He was living in a small apartment the city had provided him with after he'd lost his old family home. He had been living there for almost 7 years. The same apartment he'd lived in through the time he finished up with high school and then moved on to firefighting school. It's an Italian word for heroic. Oh, eroica. In its feminine declination. Huh. Fair enough. In those 7 years, Rokame City had transformed into a massive research city that revolved around BC research and nuclear power, to the point where it became a government-designated top-secret city. But Watase had no time to feel uncomfortable about the rapid changes happening in the city, much less feel any loneliness. He lived only to fulfill his sister's dreams. He had remodeled his body and tempered his soul to do so, and passed the notoriously difficult rescue worker exam with top marks. A rescue squad was finally established at the Rokume City Fire Department at almost the exact same time, and so he enlisted in it. At that moment, the 2 p.m. alarm rang on his watch. It was almost time for him to go to work. Man, he starts working even later than I do. According to Watase's rotation schedule, he started work at 4 p.m., but Watase had a personal rule about always showing up to work early. Time to go. The one who spoke was no longer the lazy boy who had no purpose in life. The rescue worker with a body and will of iron left his apartment and headed straight for work. He arrived at the fire station. The building he'd once seen with his sister was now Watase's workplace. Excuse me. He'd figured he'd get used to it long ago, but he still found himself remembering that day from time to time. But there's no female rescue workers out there now, huh? If possible, I'd like to be one. Watase can be a female rescue worker! Watase's heart throbbed painfully at the memory of her voice. Maybe Wataru is the one who's really working here, not me. He couldn't exactly keep himself from feeling any hatred for the culprit. But it was much healthier for him to live for the dead than to live by hating others. Oh, that'll change soon enough. Just as Watase stood thinking to himself, an ear-piercing siren suddenly interrupted his thoughts. A dispatch! So okay, we're going to get past this alarm. He instantly set his thoughts aside as he focused his mind and honed his senses. His co-workers and the guys on the night shift rapidly dispersed out of the station. The commander noticed Watase and called out to him from afar. Kasasagi, good timing. We're heading out right now. What's the dispatch for? There was a gas explosion at that apartment over there. Watase jumped onto the fire truck as soon as he heard that. Okay, so here's a question. When there are no fires, and firefighters are on duty at the station, and there are no fires, right? They're just chilling out, waiting for an emergency to happen. What do they do? Do they just chill out, or do they do some other kind of work? Watase jumped onto the fire truck as soon as he heard that. He listened to the radio report inside the truck as he changed into his uniform. A large-scale gas explosion accident has occurred at the Rokume Municipal Apartment Complex at 2-4 Higashimachi. Chill, exercise, paperwork, probably that sort of stuff. They do more than just throwing water at fire. Fair enough. Paperwork and training. Maintaining the gear. Fair enough. There are residents still inside, though the exact number is uncertain. Furthermore, there is a possibility that the building will cave in or collapse entirely. Also inspecting stuff for safety at places. Oh yeah, I guess they would have the duty of going around doing fire inspections. I completely forgot that was a thing. Huh. Fair enough. Furthermore, there is a possibility that the building will cave in or collapse entirely. Firefighting squads and the elite rescue squad are to hurry to the scene and conduct firefighting and rescue efforts. The truck arrived at the scene just as the radio transmission ended. Oh wow, yeah. That's in rough shape. Damn, this is bad. Okay, that looks like it's coming out of the fire truck. Thick clouds of black smoke rose from the now burning apartment complex. They're also trained in CPR and basic EMTs, so they get called into other emergency calls too. Ah, cool. Many fireplaces in the smaller towns like ours and a few of the surrounding towns don't have a full crew or anything. It's all volunteer. Fair enough. I guess it is a busy day every day. Thick clouds of black smoke rose from the now burning apartment complex. The commander swiftly gave out orders to the squad members. The explosion occurred from floors 1 to 4 on the building's east side. As such, there is a high risk of that side collapsing. That is where we will be conducting our rescue efforts. Team A will split into 2 groups. Kasasagi and Dojima will take the 6th floor, while Hiyama and Matsuzawa take the 5th floor. Likewise, Team B will also split into 2 groups. Asukai and Okamura will take floors 4 and 3, while Hashino and Ida will take floors 2 and 1. Ida! Wait, Horikoshi didn't make that name up? Remember, we're trying to save lives here. Make sure you don't leave a single person behind. Ask your team captains for specific instructions. All right then, get to work, men. Sir, yes, sir. The rescue workers then proceeded to run into the apartment complex. Watase and his partner Dojima went around checking all the rooms on the 6th floor. There were many doors they couldn't open, likely due to the explosion. But they just broke down those doors, saved all the people inside, and continued their rescue efforts in a show of supreme skill. Just when they finished checking all the rooms, the walkway began to slant. It's collapsing? Crap! Kasasagi, let's pull out! Dojima shouted that to him from behind. They'd already completely evacuated the floor they'd been assigned to, so they were positive they hadn't left anyone behind. But as Watase and Dojima started fleeing, a voice called out. Help us! Watase stopped dead in his tracks. Kasasagi, what's wrong? I thought I just heard a voice. Oh, it's a communicator. He didn't know where it was coming from, but he heard it again. We're in apartment 303. Hurry, the fires! It was feeble and only came out in fragments, but it was definitely the voice of someone seeking help. That'd be the 3rd floor. Did they not search all the rooms down there? Dojima, did you hear that? There's still someone in apartment 303. Yeah, let's go save them. Watase and Dojima proceeded to rush down the stairs. They encountered a woman who lived there on their way and forced her to evacuate, then headed for apartment 303. They kicked down the warped door and found themselves in a room whose ceiling had collapsed. Flames flickered in that dim space. Where's the survivor? Watase looked all around the room and spotted a girl lying trapped under burning debris. Watase's heart leapt as the sight of that girl momentarily overlapped with Wataru's death in his mind. Ah, I've located a survivor! Watase ran over to the girl and pulled her out of the rubble. Are you okay? The girl moaned in pain. She was apparently barely conscious from the lack of oxygen, but she was indeed still alive. Dojima's voice suddenly called out to him. There's another one over here. The survivors were 2 girls. Watase and Dojima each took one of the girls and ran out of the room. Yo! June! Watase walked through the creaking hallway as he carried the girl he'd found. Wait, I think I remember this. They mentioned that June got saved by Watase and decided to become a rescue worker. Ha! But June's not a communicator, so it must have been the other one. Dojima was a short distance behind him, carrying the other girl. The girl Watase was holding soon broke out into a pained coughing fit. Ugh. Are you okay? I'm gonna get you to a safe place soon, so just hold on tight. But it hurts. My back, my head, my eyes, they all hurt so much. Am I gonna die? If the dude is having I saw my sister every time he sees a girl in a disaster scenario, he might not be psychologically ready for this job. He's not psychologically ready for a lot of things. Watase answered her tearful question in a clear voice. No, don't you worry. I'll never let you die. Never. Huh? We're rescue workers. We came to save you guys. We won't let you die now that we're here. Watase said that as if to convince himself of that. Yeah, isn't that right, Wataru? A rescue worker's job is to protect others' futures. So there's no way in hell I can let this little girl die. Watase walked down the hallway as he thought that, all while carrying that small life on his back. Watase and Dojima soon safely escaped the apartment and successfully rescued the girls. They were both badly hurt, but it appeared their lives were most likely not in any danger. The girls were put into an ambulance and taken away to the hospital. Watase watched the ambulance drive off. Hey, were you watching me? I protected those girls' futures. Do you think I've matured a little since those days? Watase felt like he could hear a nostalgic voice when he thought that. You've done so well, Watase. You've made your big sis proud of you. It was probably just a figment of his imagination. But Watase looked up to the heavens and gave that voice a smile. She's communicating from beyond the grave. And then, another long period of time passed from when Watase had saved those girls. This one's 8 years after that dispatch, huh? So 1 year ago. Okay. 1 year ago. We're proceeding through his timeline pretty fast. Watase's life as a rescue worker continued after that day. He'd been on more dispatches than he could count and had saved many lives. It was by no means an easy life, but it was one he eventually got used to. Now in his early 30s, he was a man of extremely sound mind that had no disturbances in his life. Well, that's about to change. It was a warm day. Day of wrath. Watase finished his shift and took a walk around the city at dusk with his mind at total peace. There had been a lot of peaceful days like this recently, with no dispatches. Why do I feel a bit unsatisfied? I mean, I never would have dreamed that there'd ever be days like this back then. His job and coworkers had supported him all this way. Among those coworkers, there were two of them who had similar backgrounds as Watase. They were Seiji Dojima and Kazuki Hiyama. Much like him, they had also lost family and loved ones in the Great Arson and had been brought up in the city. Deus Irae is God's wrath, gotcha. They had all become rescue workers for similar motives and were all close in age, so the three of them got along very well. He had been blessed with coworkers whom he could pour his heart out to, a job that was worth doing, and on top of that, a subordinate who loved him dearly. He'd often been thinking recently that his life wasn't so bad after all. Just as he returned to his apartment and finished changing, his PDA rang. The display read, "Caller unknown." Watase hesitated for a moment, then picked up the phone. "Mr. Watase Kasasagi, I presume." He heard a man's voice on the other end, backed by dramatic music. His voice sounded somewhat mechanical, like it was being filtered through a voice changer. Who is this? I'm not one to give away my name. The truth is, there is something I'd like to tell you. Huh? Me? The man started talking dispassionately, just as Watase was ready to fully write this off as a prank. I apologize, but we've looked into you. Huh? Watase Kasasagi, age 31. Lost your family in the great Rokame City arson 15 years ago. Is he about to get lied to that it was communicators who set that? After that, you were taken under the protection of Rokame City and moved into municipal housing. You enrolled in firefighting school after graduating high school. After graduating that, you were assigned to the Rokame City Fire Department. You quickly stuck out amongst your peers and passed the rescue worker exam 2 years later. You then enlisted in Sirius. I know it must have been tough for you to lose your family, but you avoided lashing out and grew up to be an honest man. Shivers ran down Watase's spine. Someone calls me with a voice changer and doesn't identify themselves, I would just hang up? Yeah. For he didn't know for what reason his caller would run a background check on him. What the hell are you, some kind of stalker? Stalking other men? You sure have some sick hobbies. Well, don't be homophobic, Watase. It's not a hobby. There's a reason I looked into you. It's because you're an unfortunate victim of the great arson. Don't talk about that. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff from other people. You are indeed probably tired of hearing people offer their sympathies for the loss of your family. I can understand why you don't want to talk about this. But what if I told you that your family didn't die just because of some arson? What? Watase gasped. Hold on, what the hell's that supposed to mean? Let me make one thing clear in advance. If you learn the truth, your life will probably change forever. Are you gonna believe him, Watase? If you treasure your current life, then hang up now. Then everything will stay the way it is. You can go back to your peaceful life. But if you still wish to know the truth, then come to the ruins of the old Rokame City Hospital, alone. And with those last words, the caller hung up. Hey! There was no response from his PDA, no matter how much he yelled at it. Watase stood in a daze for a while in his apartment. The ruins of the old Rokame City Hospital. What truth is he talking about? Damn it. His desire to know the truth and his desire to keep on living in contentment were at odds in his mind. But Watase eventually made his decision, dashing out of his apartment. It had been 15 years since he'd last visited this place. The place where Wataru had lost her life had apparently been left the way it was for all those years. Why didn't it get demolished? Probably because it was such a big hospital that demolishing it would cost a sum that no man was willing to pay. Fair enough. There was no sign of anyone in the ruined hospital. Hey, is anyone there? Watase's shouts simply echoed meaninglessly through the halls. So it really was a prank. Overcome with both irritation and relief, Watase was about to leave the ruins when he spotted something shining on the ground by the entrance. The hell's this? It was a PDA. He took a close look at it to find that the words "Call in Progress" were displayed on its screen. Watase picked up the PDA, a sense of unease weighing on his mind. When he did, he heard the voice of the man who'd called him earlier coming from the speakers. Hey there, looks like you really did come. So it really was you. Rather roundabout way of pranking people, don't you think? Imagine if he hadn't seen it and left. Yeah, seriously. Several problems could possibly arise if you were to see my face. Please forgive me for resorting to this method. And again, I don't get a word you're saying. Well, whatever. Anyway, keep your damn promise and tell me that truth you were mentioning, or whatever. The man started talking in a meek voice. As you know, fires broke out simultaneously in 15 different places in the city on September 16th, 2014. That's the event we now call the Great Rokome City Arson, but there are many unsolved mysteries behind that incident, wouldn't you agree? Huh? Well, yeah, that's true. Watase knew about that, too. Most of the information concerning the trials related to the incident had not been made public. The country and Rokome City had been hounded by the media, but they hadn't gotten much information out of them, apart from the incident was caused by an extremist group. They claimed the incident to be a kind of terrorist attack committed by a group who aimed to reject communicators. They say they kept the details away from the public to prevent copycat criminals and public unrest from rising up. Well, it all adds up. It's a rather simple story to swallow. What are you implying? The truth is actually the other way around. The extremist group that was arrested were nothing more than scapegoats. The incident was actually caused by a lone communicator. Are you going to believe in Watase? Watase doubted what he heard. A lone communicator did that? Don't be ridiculous. How the hell could a single communicator set fire to 15 separate places in the city all at once? Oh, is this going to be him being told that the communicator controlled people's minds? It's possible. For the cause of it all was a communicator who possessed an extraordinary power. What? She eventually came to be known as Communicator A. Oh boy. The man began explaining the details about this communicator in a subdued voice. A's real name was Alice Enflamme. Really? Come on. She moved to Rokome City from France 15 years ago. Aha! That's Salu's mom, who Watase saw 15 years ago. At the time, the Rokome City government was inviting communicators from all over the world to move to the city. They needed human resources for various experiments and studies in order to advance their research in the suddenly valuable field of BC. Watase remembered that. Rokome City had indeed been doing just that all those years ago. They called the one who came from France A. A was the first rank S aptitude communicator discovered in the world. That's why she caught Rokome City's eye. A was shown into the PRC and became a test subject for the study and development of BC abilities. Back then, all they knew about BC was that it allowed for abilities to send your voice to a faraway person and to read others' minds. But the PRC discovered the underlying mechanisms of telepathy and empathy through their study of A. And through all those experiments, A's own BC abilities developed and grew stronger. She became able to use telepathy and empathy freely. Their effective ranges grew wider, and her power just kept on growing, on and on, with no end in sight. But if that was all there'd been to it, there wouldn't have been any problems. The problem was that A was both the strongest communicator there was and the worst criminal there was. When the man said that, a floral scent drifted through the air from somewhere, and static blasted through Watase's mind. He's being mind-controlled. The screen on the PDA then changed. What's this? It appeared to be a magazine article written in a foreign language. There were two pictures there, one of a burning building and the other of a beautiful woman. Watase felt like he had seen her somewhere before. This is a French gossip magazine article about an incident that occurred in A's hometown in February 2014. A, with her tremendous power, was ostracized by the people around her. So one day, she set fire to her town to slaughter those who had ostracized her. Huh? I've heard that story somewhere before. Watase thought about it and then remembered. Wataru had told him about it back when she was still alive. Well, the thing is, there have been these BC-related incidents happening from time to time in other countries. And when they were talking, Watase had seen a blonde woman in the PRC. No way. Was that woman Communicator A? His memory was fuzzy because it had happened so long ago, but he had a feeling he was right. The time frame matched up and everything. The man continued as Watase frowned. In other words, A was simply malice incarnate, a woman who, on a whim, tried to massacre every person in the city. She was pursued by the French authorities, but before they could catch her, she fled to Japan and was sheltered by the PRC. Luckily for her, the PRC developed her BC abilities without ever realizing the true danger they possessed. What was so dangerous about them? Mind control? You don't know. BC, telepathy that is, isn't just the ability to send your voice to a faraway person. You can also send your feelings to others with it. No, Twitter existed in 2014. In other words, powerful BC could very well change other people's thoughts. Ah. So what do you think would happen if someone filled with as much malice as A were to indiscriminately let her thoughts loose on everyone around her? Those thoughts would bring out the malice that lurks in the hearts of every man. Her malice would spread to everyone around her like a virulent disease. Now you understand just how dangerous it is, don't you? Watase was rendered speechless. Watase says, I'm not sure I buy that. The villain sends you gullibility. Watase, actually that sounds legit. He just silently continued to listen to the man. The researchers at the PRC raised an ordinary criminal into a bona fide monster. The researchers realized how dangerous A was far too late and set up surveillance to keep her from wandering out into the city. But on September 16th, 2014, A escaped from the facility. Escaped? Then you mean she... Yes, A spread her malice-laced thoughts all throughout the city that night. Those thoughts influenced the minds of the people of Rokame City in some way. This caused the already high levels of malice held by would-be criminals to spike through the roof, and led them to setting the city on fire. This is the truth behind the great Rokame City arson. The man declared all of that in a clear voice. It can't be. This sounds hella unverifiable. Yeah, Watase is a gullible motherfucker. Watase noticed that his hands had started shaking. He's saying a single woman became the trigger behind the incident? The story was sudden and difficult to believe, but the man spoke in an unwaveringly serious voice, leaving no room for doubt. So what about that floral scent? Watase remained silent as the man continued. This was a scandal for the PRC, and consequently, a scandal for the Rokame City government, the ones managing the PRC. But they won't admit to that. Rokame City hid the truth behind the incident, along with the existence of A. A was taken back to the PRC in absolute secrecy and confined in a basement of sorts again. In the meantime, Labo was constructed on the outskirts of the city. Once it was completed, A was transferred from the PRC to Labo. Why Labo? That's a nuclear research facility, isn't it? Why would they send a communicator there? No, Labo is no nuclear research facility. It's actually a BC research facility. Impossible. I never heard anything about that. Well, it's a secret, Watase. Of course not. It's the city's biggest secret. But don't you think it's strange? There are many hurdles you have to overcome to create a new nuclear reactor. You have to clear strict construction standards and legal problems, then make the necessary arrangements with the city council. Yet all of those conditions were cleared quickly, and Labo was built. Why was Labo able to easily overcome those hurdles and get built in the first place? The answer is simple. It's because Labo doesn't actually have a nuclear reactor. Because it's a BC research facility, not a nuclear research facility. The common sense Watase had thought to be true up until this point was gradually being rewritten. The man waited a moment for Watase to respond, then continued. But the one problem that stood in their way was the sentiments of the townspeople. Their antipathy towards nuclear power was overwhelming, as you'd expect. But the city explained to the civilians that the implementation of truly safe nuclear power is essential to Japan now that our natural resources are drying up, which led to the townspeople finally accepting their decision. Watase remembered the turmoil of that time. Watase had been 18 years old at the time, but as he had just enrolled in firefighting school, he hadn't had much of a reaction to all the fuss, other than, well, guess the city's gotta do what it's gotta do. But that series of events was all a cover. Everyone was opposed to nuclear power, but no one suspected that Labo was actually a BC research facility. And they used the dangers and confidentiality of nuclear power research as a pretext to successfully keep the townspeople far away from Labo. So you mean the guys behind Rokume City even used the townspeople's feelings of opposition to their advantage? That's something no person should be allowed to do. That is of trivial importance to the people of Labo. Their only moral code is to take the best possible actions for their research. No way. At any rate, Labo was then completed. And it's no ordinary research facility either. It's also a facility for keeping dangerous communicators like A locked up. There's a residential area of sorts deep beneath Labo. That's where they confined A. So, how did she get pregnant, or was she cloned? Do I want to know? Wait, wasn't A put on trial? Why would Rokume City shelter A after all she did? It's obvious. It was so that they could keep on using A as a lab rat after she had caused that huge incident. What? The Rokume City government and the PRC would be forced to take responsibility were the truth behind the incident to ever come to light. So the people behind Rokume City figured they should cover the whole incident up and continue the research in another location. Thus, Communicator A came to be known as Subject A from that day onwards, and participated in Labo's BC ability research and development. Meanwhile, with the PRC having served its purpose, it was turned into a mere dummy facility. The results of the BC research secretly conducted at Labo are published through the PRC. Okay, so I'm betting that Salu is a clone of A, and that dead little girl is a clone of Yuri. The results of the BC research secretly conducted at Labo are published through the PRC. That way, no one would suspect Labo was a BC research center, and thus their perfect cover-up system was completed. Both Labo and the PRC are government-managed facilities. Trace them back to their source, and you'll find that they're all closely connected under the jurisdiction of Rokume City. Watase thought things over as calmly as possible, despite the agitation causing his insides to tremble. He wanted to make sure there weren't any inconsistencies in what the man was saying. No, hold on. Is that really all there is to it? When you think about it normally, wouldn't someone in on the whole thing have tried to stop that whole chain of events? They didn't. You see, back then, Rokame City was all about focusing their efforts into BC research. I think you remember this too, but Japan was showing signs of being in an economic and industrial deadlock back in those days. And then new technology, known as BC, showed up right there and then. The guys behind Rokame City bet on that possibility and pressed forward with their BC technological development, even if it meant pushing every obstacle in their way aside. What did they have to gain from that? All of their advanced technology has the potential to earn them riches beyond your wildest dreams. BC is genuinely new technology that no one else in the world has invested in. If Japan beat the rest of the world to the punch in its research, that'd put them in the top of that field. The fact is that telepathy can be applied to the field of psychiatry. While empathy has nearly countless potential uses, it could be used for secret intelligence gathered in all sorts of fields, like industry, politics, and the military. Thus, those involved built a system based on their new interests, and grew obsessed with doing whatever it took to protect those interests, even if it meant covering up anything inconvenient for them. And you're yet another victim of those efforts. I am? Yeah, keep up, Watase. 118 people died in the Great Rokame City arson. The bereaved families of the victims were given courteous patronage and granted assistance with their lives, moving on to college and finding jobs. I highly doubt that intelligence agencies all over the world did not invest in this when they saw bona fide proof of mind reading. Absolutely correct. There are many others like you who were given homes in public housing and became civil servants. But don't you find that strange? Why would a simple local government go so far in taking the bereaved families of the victims into consideration? Their goal was to take the bereaved families under the city's wing and keep a close eye on how they developed from there. That can't be. Having trouble believing it? Well, I don't blame you. Then I'll send you some documents we've obtained that are totally legit. Take a look at them and decide for yourself if what I'm saying is true. An email with an attachment was sent to the PDA right after the man said that. Watase opened the email and checked the contents of the file. They were various documents that supported the man's claims. A photo of Labo's interior. This showed that Labo was no nuclear power research center. A photo of an email sent from Labo to the PRC. This email proved that a BC insulator that Labo had developed was publicly announced as something from the PRC. Subject A's data. A lot of the data in this one had been deleted, but what remained did confirm that Labo had indeed confined a communicator called that. All sorts of other documents were there, each one supporting the idea that what the man had said was true. So when he finished reading all of it, Watase muttered in a stunned voice. Is what you're telling me really true? It is, though it must not be easy to believe, nor is it something you would want to believe. But think back on how abnormal this city is. They control information and conduct surveillance on their townspeople without batting an eye, right? Anything's possible in this city, no matter how unbelievable it may sound. Watase was taken aback at those words. The city had grown to do all sorts of things that would normally be considered a violation of human rights on the supposed grounds that Rokame City was a government-designated top-secret city. such as setting up surveillance cameras all over the city. The city gates that controlled the coming and going of townspeople. The citizen database that only certain people were allowed to access. The townspeople had been opposed to the creation of every single one of them. But their complaints eventually died down, and the security cameras and so on were implemented little by little. And before they knew it, all those things had become like air to the townspeople. No, the townspeople had simply gotten used to those abnormalities. Watase felt chills run through him when it hit him just how strange the whole thing was. Since it wasn't directly related to them, no one had thought about it seriously. And thus, all sorts of things that couldn't be undone had gone forward without him even noticing it. So what are you saying? My family died because of that monster built up by the Rokome City government and the PRC? Yet at the time, the Rokome City government hid their crimes and never took responsibility. Crime Victim Support Laws Part 2. And I received money from that very same government and lived a comfortable life up until today without knowing a damn thing? Unfortunately, that's exactly it. The days when being spied on by companies in the government was considered odd and aberrant and not the daily life. Oh God, you're right. Man, that was a long time ago. A world away. You were raised by the government responsible for your family's deaths and have been working for them as a civil servant. Watase let out a wordless scream. His blood boiled and a deep red filled his vision. Fuck that! What happened to Subject A? Is she still living in Labo? No, she died. What? After causing that incident, A was used by Labo as a human test subject, and then died there just a year after she'd been confined. She probably died a cruel death. In the end, A too was nothing more than a victim of Rokome City's wrongdoings. A sense of emptiness filled Watase's body. Having immediately lost the target of his hatred, he switched it over to a new one. What happened with the Rokome City government after that? What happened with Labo after they lost their valuable test subject due to A's death? They abducted new test subjects and used them to continue their BC research. A floral scent filled the air yet again at that moment. Yeah, that's suspicious. Out of all the communicators who live in Rokome City, those who possess particularly superb abilities are confined in Labo and made into test subjects. And so more monsters like A have been growing in number one by one. Why would they ever do something like that? One of their goals is, naturally, to study BC. And the other one is to create a kind of biological weapon. Did you say a biological weapon? The incident with A was merely an accident, but if you look at it from another angle, you'll find that communicators who have become monsters can be used in interesting ways. For example, let's say you send one of them into a capital of an enemy nation. What do you think would happen next? They'd amplify the malice of the city's residents, leading to mass chaos and destruction? Yeah, if malicious. A was evil because everyone ostracized her, so it is obviously being a communicator that makes you inherently evil, so we must treat them like monsters, yeah. They'd amplify the malice of the city's residents, leading to mass chaos and destruction? Precisely. They could intentionally cause the same thing that happened in Rokome City 15 years ago. If left alone for a few days, arson and crimes would spread through the whole city, criminals would run rampant, and public order would likely be impossible to restore. But the attacked party wouldn't even realize that they'd been attacked. For the core concept behind this biological weapon is that it devastates people's minds. A weapon that only damages a country's citizens without actually damaging the country itself. Truly a weapon of the new era. But isn't Rokume City just a local government? What would drive them to do that? The truth is, the Rokume City government has this intimate relationship with a certain foreign company. On the outside, they're just a pharmaceutical company, but behind the facade, they're an arms dealer. Merchants of death, as the term goes. Suddenly, zero escape. Almost all of the sinister research being carried out is done at their request. But no one's realized this, so there's no one who can talk about or leak this. The truth will forever continue to be covered up and vanish into the deepest darkness. I see. It's oddly common to see pharmaceutical companies as bad guys in visual novels. That is a little weird that a bunch of the visual novels I've played on stream have had pharmaceutical company villains. They are a common scapegoat of conspiracies, that's true. I see. So Rokume City is trying to create more of those monsters responsible for Wataru and our parents' deaths. Flames of rage burned up within Watase. He sealed those pitch-black flames deep within his chest and continued. Hey, let me ask you something. What do you gain from telling me all this? What do you want me to do? Let me reverse the question. What do you want to do? Watase Kasasagi, I ask this straight to your heart. Now that you know the truth, can you return to that false peace? Tell me your true feelings. Watase's heart pounded loudly at that request. Can I keep on living the same carefree life now that I know the truth? You don't know shit, Watase. The Rokume City government had killed his sister and parents, twisted his life. And on top of all that, they'd hidden the truth and forced him to live an unknowing lie for 15 years. Watase had pushed his hatred of the culprit of the incident into the deepest corners of his heart by following his sister's dream. But the truth was, there was a certain desire he'd secretly held all these years. I wanted to make the culprit go through the same pain Wataru did. Ah, yes, Wataru was your sister, correct? Yeah. She was such a good person. She was weak but motivated, stupid but gentle. Tears poured out of Watase's eyes when he said that. Watase loved Wataru. He hated the one who had taken her away from him forever from the bottom of his heart. But everything about the culprit, including her very existence, had been concealed by the Rokume City government. If possible, he would have very much liked to tear A limb from limb, but that was no longer an option. Then that left the Rokume City government as the only target for Watase's hatred and anger. Hey, should I feel ashamed about wanting revenge? He's not going to tell you yes. Is it okay for me to want revenge when it's my job to save lives? Is it okay for me to hate the bastards running Rokume City? Of course. The man's answer was clear and blunt. It's only human for you to hate your family's killer. And if you truly feel that way, then you can become one of us, our comrade. Watase heard footsteps coming from behind at that moment. It's his co-workers. Watase turned around in surprise, only to see a... Oh, I knew it! I knew he was shady! Hi, Ukita! Only to see a man standing there. Judging from the fact that he was holding a PDA, he had likely been the one talking to Watase just now. Who are you? Me? I'm a researcher at Labo. The man put his PDA away and answered. But I too hate Labo and Rokame City, much like you. What? A whistleblower. That term passed through Watase's head. He'd sent him pictures of Labo and data about the test subject just minutes ago. Only someone on the inside could have obtained those things. But what did you mean by become one of us? No, wait, what do you mean by us? You see, while I work as a researcher for Labo, I am also a member of a certain organization. What organization? The extremist organization who was arrested for the Great Arson 15 years ago. The ones who were branded as criminals instead of Communicator A. Watase was astonished. Wait, do you mean you guys are terrorists? Terrorists, huh? It's true that those who stand up against authority have been frequently called by that term. Quit mincing words. What you guys do is commit acts of destruction, plain and simple. You're the ones who set up bombs at the PRC before, weren't you? All you've done is give us that much more work to do. Hold on. It's not like I'm a member of this extremist organization because I want to be. There's just no other organization out there who I can count on to oppose Rokame City. That's all there is to it. What? Can't you just tell the police to... Excuse me, won't work. Considering the fact that they've been able to keep such a large-scale cover-up running for so long, it's best to assume Rokame City has the police in their pocket. And when you look at how much information control is going on, that leaves the media out of the picture too. And before you suggest standing up to them by myself, that's out of the question too. Someone tried that once, and they got murdered in a way that looked like an accident. But despite all that, I want to reveal the truth. I want to bring Labo's wrongdoings to light, even if it means making an enemy of the entire city. Why are you going so far? Much like you, I also have a reason to fight. You should understand by now why I told you all this. My comrades and I are currently formulating a plan to deal a crippling blow to Rokame City and Labo. And we need your help to carry out this plan. You need me? You're free to refuse, of course. If you then proceed to go to the police and tell them everything you've just heard, I will most likely be arrested as a terrorist. Though perhaps Labo will get to me before the police can and kill me. I'm taking a huge risk by showing you my face and telling you all about my background. But I'd like to believe that you'll become one of our comrades. I want to believe that all the things you said about your deceased sister just minutes ago were true. Oh, you manipulative bastard. The man then looked Watase dead in the eye. You can still turn back now. You can forget everything and return to your normal life. I thought he was looking him dead in the eye. He closed his eyes. But if you want to fight Rokame City alongside us, then become one of us. Watase looked the man back in the eye. After a long silence, he finally answered. What's the name of your organization? Q. That is so unfortunate. They couldn't have known. This game came out in like 2014 or 2015. They couldn't have known what QAnon would be. But... oh, that's unfortunate. We are the ones who pose the unrelenting questions to this insidious world. Natsuhiko was shocked about the memory he'd just seen. 2012. Okay, yeah. Yeah, QAnon. They could not have known about QAnon. That wouldn't have been a thing for a few years. But... yeah, unfortunate. Natsuhiko was shocked about the memory he'd just seen. I see. So that's why Watase hates communicators so much. And now I know that it was Mr. Ukita who led Watase down the path of evil. He'd had his suspicions for a while, but now he knew for sure that Ukita was also a terrorist. But Mr. Ukita and Watase are making a grave misunderstanding. Yuri was a test subject, but she never turned into a monster. Communicator A may indeed have been a dangerous being. But Labo as it is now isn't creating any monsters. And of course, there's no way in hell that absurd story about them creating biological weapons is true either. Then that meant Watase's descent into terrorism was most likely all based on a misunderstanding. The more of Watase's memories he saw, the stronger the pain in Natsuhiko's heart grew. But he kept on viewing those memories to learn the truth. And so, the next memory to appear, we will do in a few minutes. I'm going to save and take a quick break. So, Burb, Okay, and back, and game. Alright, so next, are we going to Watase and Kazumi breaking up? Or are we going to the start of the operation here in Labo? And so, the next memory to appear was an event that took place exactly 1 month later. The name of the man who had told Watase the truth at the ruins of the hospital was Keiji Ukita. On that day, he left Watase with the words, "If you want to be one of our comrades, then feel free to contact me at any time." Watase racked his mind over what to do all throughout the next month, and then finally contacted Ukita. They secretly met at the same place as last time. False world, I trust thee not. The ruins of the hospital. Watase arrived there shortly after leaving work. Before long, Ukita also showed up with a tense look on his face. "It's been a long time, Mr. Kasasaki. It's been 1 month. That's not a long time. Have you decided to become one of us?" "No, I want to ask you something before that." "What's that?" "Why are you betraying Labo?" "I can't trust a man who'd betray his own organization without first hearing a clear reason that I can accept." A bitter look rose to Ukita's face when he heard that question. "Because I hate the way Labo does things, that's all." Yeah, these bits of static are super suspicious. But Ukita isn't a communicator, because he's got the madness that happens when a non-communicator gets bombarded with WX particles. So somebody else is fucking with Watase's brain. "Because I hate the way Labo does things, that's all." A floral scent wafted through the air when Ukita said that. "What? But aren't you guys the ones who are abducting communicators and using them for human experimentation?" "No, that's only done by a small number of employees, known as senior fellows. High-ranked researchers, in other words." Wait, so hang on. I've had the running theory for the last 60 hours of gameplay that Ukita was lying about the level of access he had, and he was not a relatively low-level researcher. You're telling me that that theory, too, was too cool for this game? Oh my god. No, that's only done by a small number of employees known as senior fellows. High-ranked researchers, in other words. Junior fellows, normal researchers like me, know that Labo is a BC research facility, but don't know about the test subjects. But I accidentally discovered the truth, you see. It appears that there was someone who came before me who also learned of that secret, and he was killed. Labo thinks nothing of the lives of us junior fellows. So I figured I had to do something before I was next. So you're doing this to protect yourself. I know it's much more pathetic than your reason, but is it acceptable to you? Yeah. Watase didn't think Ukita's reason was pathetic at all. It was only natural to want to save yourself when your own life was at risk. No one can blame him. Watase held his hand out to Ukita. I'll trust you. I'll help you out as much as I'm needed to. I am grateful beyond words to hear that. Ukita then gave Watase a firm handshake. His hand was as thin as a dead tree, but his palm was filled with heat. That's how the human body works. From that day onwards, Watase and Ukita began making preparations to put their terrorist plot into action. They held their secret meetings to formulate said plot in Watase's apartment. That's a bad idea. Did you just want to get away from the ruined hospital background? Before the meeting, Watase followed Ukita's instructions and checked the apartment to make sure it wasn't bugged anywhere. He was horrified to discover that there were indeed several bugs in his apartment, but he destroyed all of them. He was a bit cautious after that, but no new bugs were planted. It appeared he had probably long since ceased to be an observation target for Rokume City. Okay then, I need to know everything, Mr. Ukita. Tell me all the details about the plan and its goal. That's static. Very well, this is what we thought up so far. A faint floral scent filled the air when Ukita said that. First of all, our ultimate objective is to abduct the test subjects. Huh? What good's abducting monsters gonna do? I believe I've already told you this, but a communicator who's turned into a monster has the potential to become a biological weapon. Labo's barbarity would come to an end were the world to ever learn of the danger they possess. So that's why he didn't kill, Yuri. I see, that makes sense. That would probably result in an investigation into all the other things Rokume City's been covering up all this time, one after another. Indeed, it would also deal a major blow to both Labo and Rokume City. But even so, how are we supposed to break into Labo to do that? Unless the static is not Hiko's impression of Ukita changing Watase's feelings about him. But even so, how are we supposed to break into Labo to do that? Labo has strict security on par with that of a nuclear power plant, right? Indeed. That's where you and your rescue squad come in. What? Labo's security has but one hole in it. It's the automatic disaster prevention system, their biggest blind spot. So you're planning to exploit the disaster prevention system? Yes. When a fire breaks out in Labo, they automatically send a report to you guys at Sirius, right? That should allow you guys to break into Labo without being stopped by security. I get it. So you're saying we should take advantage of the chaos following the fire to get those test subjects out. Now he finally understood why Ukita had recruited him. But this is just your way in. Labo's security system has layer upon layer of protection that will provide several obstacles towards the plan's execution. I'll explain them one by one. I learned this 60 hours of gameplay ago. Don't explain them, Ukita. Just have a little note that Ukita explained them and move on. Ukita took out his PDA. Oh god. A map was on its screen. Oh my god, really? Really? A map was on its screen. This is a map of Labo. Q's comrades were able to steal this map from the contractors who built the facility. Anyway, take a look at this. The test subjects are being held captive in the deepest depths beneath Labo. You mean in floor B2? He'd heard that Labo had 2 surface floors and 2 basement floors. Nope, even deeper. So we assumed that they'd be on the lowest floor. No, deeper than that, which I've known about, or I guess I've guessed, for a long time now. No, deeper than that. In the center of the basement floors is Area M, but the truth is there's an elevator there that goes down. What? So there's a B3? Precisely. It's a large basement floor located deep underground, known as Area 0. It's time to escape from Area 0. That's where the 2 test subjects are being held, a place where no sunlight ever reaches. So we've got 2 test subjects, huh? Do we know their names, ages, and genders? No. All I was able to discover is that they're called Subject N and Subject Y2. Y2? So there's a Y1? No. They say Subject Y was discarded several years ago. They most likely died in Labo, just like Subject A. I see. Natsuhiko was shocked to hear what they were saying. There's a third basement floor known as Area 0? So that means there's another floor under Labo. Right under where I was lying for all those hours. According to what he'd heard, the ones imprisoned down there were Subject N and Subject Y2. He didn't know which one referred to Yuri and which one referred to the other girl. Presumably Y. But that means what Yuri said was true. There had also been a Subject Y, but they'd already died, apparently. Why are you repeating that? We heard this 15 seconds ago! Did they also die from human experimentation? But nothing like that ever happened to Yuri. Wait, hold on. Could that mean that the test subjects were each treated differently? There was still too much Natsuhiko didn't know. Watase kept silent, and Ukita continued. Let's get back on topic. So the test subjects we need to save are in Area 0. However, in order to get down there, you'll need 2 security cards from top brass researchers. What's more, there's apparently a retinal scan ID process involved. They sure didn't pull their punches when it came to security on the thing. Indeed. To make matters worse, even if you can get the test subjects out of Area 0, there's another problem. As soon as you get out of Area N, a Case N, the code to prevent a test subject from escaping, will be declared. A Case N? A code that locks down the countless security gates in the facility. What's more, it causes indestructible bulkheads to block all routes to the surface, preventing anyone from getting out. Furthermore, the security team and staff will realize something's gone horribly wrong when a Case N is announced. Any staff still inside the facility will become desperate to find the escaped test subjects, while the security teams outside the facility will form a perimeter around the facility to prevent them from getting away. That does sound like quite the challenge. Then is there any way to prevent a Case N from being declared? No. The Case N declaration system is conducted by the supercomputer Brain Cell, which supervises all of Labo. It's a little Resident Evil. It could do with being more Resident Evil. It has 3 control systems that mutually complement each other. It's impossible to knock them all offline at the same time. Talk about thorough. We did have a meme in the beginning about gun zombies, yeah. Yes. Well, apparently you can take the test subjects all the way to Area 5 if you go through standard procedures. Area 5? Why is that the one place it's okay to take them to? There are rooms in that area where they conduct examinations and experiments on the test subjects. Therefore, it's the only place where the test subjects are allowed to be taken to. But even in the case they are taken to Area 5, it appears a Case N is still declared if they ever approach the elevators and emergency staircases. What, do they have trackers implanted in them? Also, hang on. If Case N gets declared... Okay, so Case N gets declared. Everyone in the facility is alerted to the escape of a test subject, including the security teams on the surface. The security teams will wait at the gate to accost the people leaving once the Case N is ended. How do you get past them with Yuri? How? What's the plan, Ukita? But even in the case that they are still declared, so what you're saying is that it's impossible to leave the facility with the test subjects even if we manage to get in there? Yes, we must do it regardless. We have to make the impossible possible. How? What's your plan, Ukita? Watase nodded. There were 3 major problems with the plan. The first one was finding a way to get past the security card and retinal scan checks to get down to Area 0. The second one was finding a way to get the test subjects out of there without being discovered by the staff still in the facility. The third and final one was finding a way to escape the facility with the test subjects even after a case N had been declared. Let's cover the first problem first, how to get down to Area 0. We'll probably have to render some high-ranked researchers unconscious on the day we execute our plan, then take them with us and force them to do the retinal scan. That's also how we'll get the cards. That way, we can get down to Area 0 by making it look like we're going through standard procedures. I don't like the idea of doing that, but we have no choice, huh? Watase accepted Ukita's proposal. Let's move on to the next issue then. As for how we can deal with the staff in the facility, we've decided to use the Case N declaration against them. What do you mean? It's a little complicated, but hear me out. It'll go something like this. And with that lead in, Ukita began explaining. First things first, Labo has this machine in it called a WX particle amplifier. It will go haywire if handled incorrectly. Brain Cell will automatically take action to stop the machine once it goes haywire. But it will take time for it to stop it. If we intentionally cause it to go haywire, that process will take 12 hours. So 6 p.m., not 3 p.m. And if a Case N is declared at the same time the WX particle amplifier is going haywire, then it will be impossible to call off the Case N until the machine has stopped going haywire. It will be absolutely impossible for them to open up the sealed bulkheads. Well, that's a problem for us, isn't it? What? Why won't they be able to open up the bulkheads? The WX amplifier is basically a machine that spreads elementary particles that amplify the effects of BC. Can you imagine what would happen if a test subject escaped while that machine was going haywire? It's likely they'd use BC to seek help from people outside. In the worst case scenario, the townspeople could end up receiving the test subject's telepathy. I see. Now I understand why they won't be able to open the bulkheads. It's just yet another part of their whole cover-up. But what does that have to do with how security teams will try to deal with it? Right. I was about to use that as the basis to explain what we should do. First, we'll start a fire in the facility and force the staff and security teams to evacuate. We won't rescue the test subjects just yet at that point. But one of them will already be out. But if the WX particle amplifier goes haywire and a Case N is declared after they've all evacuated, then there will be no one left in the facility. Everything sounded like a good idea up until that point, but won't that mean we won't be able to get outside? Well, you see, there's this water pipe. Incorrect. There is still a single place we can escape from, even with the bulkheads locked down. What? Where's that? The WX particle amplifier's coolant pipes. Well, that's a problem. Ukita fiddled around with his PDA again after he said that. When he did, the screen changed to show the WX particle amplifier's manual. The water used for the WX particle amplifier's coolant is drawn in from Lake Rokame. Well, this didn't work. We tried this. It didn't work. The coolant's intake and drainage pipes are 1 meter in diameter, just big enough for a person to fit in. The pipes are filled with hot water that circulates at high speeds. But the whole thing's set up so that the water automatically stops flowing if you destroy the coolant's filtering mechanism. Wait, hold on. Won't opening a hole in the intake pipe flood all of Labo? Why didn't it work? Because there were obstacles to getting out through the pipe. Watase pointed to a part of the diagram and spoke. According to this diagram, the intake pipe is located under Lake Rokume's water level, meaning water will pour out of the pipe all at once if you open a hole in it, running water or not, and Labo will be flooded. Right, which is why we'll open a hole in the drainage pipe. There's a giant pump inside the drainage pipe that will prevent us from passing through. Already learned that. So I want you to destroy it. Ukita said that with a broad grin on his face. Did you say destroy it? How? If you destroy the pump first, then your main obstacle will be the water in the pipe. But if we stop the water from running and open up a hole in the bottom half of the pipe... Oh, I get it. Then we can drain the water. Glad you get it. The drainage pipe's exit was above Lake Rokume's water level, meaning that unlike the intake pipe, opening a hole in there would cause much less water to pour out. So our next issue is how to destroy the pump after we've drained the water, but this is where I'd appreciate some ideas from you. Can you think of any specialized rescue equipment that can be used to destroy the pump? Yes, let's see. Special equipment to destroy a pump, huh? The saw blade. Watase thought the whole thing through, then quickly found an answer. I know, a jackhammer should probably do the trick. Oh, the air jackhammer, huh? A jackhammer? You know, the tool used to smash down bedrock. We use it to rescue those who are trapped behind fallen debris. So it shouldn't look all that suspicious if we use the fire as a pretext to bring one down to the basement. Indeed, that sounds like it would work nicely. But how much time do you think it'd take for one of those things to destroy the pump? Well, if we kept working without a break, I'd say about 3 hours or so. So we'll have just enough time to do it from the current time period. But you said that the bulkheads will remain closed for about 12 hours if a Keissen is declared, right? So it might take a little time, but it shouldn't be a problem. After we force the facility into lockdown, we'll take our time destroying the pump, and then we can escape to Lake Rokume with the test subjects. Those dumbasses at Labo will just be waiting outside the facility the whole time for the lockdown to be lifted, and when the bulkheads finally open, they'll find nothing more than an empty husk. Incredible! It's the perfect plan! Oh boy. Perfect, huh? Alright. Ukita broke out into a reassured smile. Satisfied, Watase returned Ukita's smile with one of his own. Okay, so the jackhammer will definitely attract the attention of the madness-afflicted members of the group. So how do we implement that? How do we implement that without drawing their attention? Also, where the hell is Enna? Satisfied, Watase returned Ukita's smile with one of his own. Alright, then let's go with this plan. Things are about to get busy. Yes, there's a lot of things we'll need to prepare in order to execute our plan. It's about time we got to thinking about the starting point, though. How do we cause the fire in the facility? Leave that to me. I'll contact other Q members and get incendiary bombs and the other necessary equipment from them. Thanks, you're a lifesaver. And so, Watase and Ukita began formulating their plan on a grand scale. Ukita contacted other Q members and gave them the outline of the plan. Q gave their answer on the spot. It's a good plan. We approve of it as well. We'll back you up in every way we can. Once they got that answer, Watase and Ukita collaborated with the other Q members located in Rokume City to move forward with the plan. First, they got their answer on how to cause the fire. We will prepare 100 incendiary time bombs, set those up in Labo and make them go off all at the same time. 100? I'm grateful for that. The problem is how to set the bombs in the first place. Take one in every day, set it up to go off on the day of the operation. Hide them in the fire extinguishers? Maybe that's what happened? That will indeed be difficult. Someone will spot the bombs shortly after they're planted, and cause a big fuss. Then can't we hide the bombs in something to disguise them? That way they won't suspect they're bombs when they see them. Like, for example, by putting them in fire extinguishers. Fire extinguishers? Our squad directs Labo's disaster prevention. We replace their old fire extinguishers with new ones every 2 years as part of that program. That's our chance. Ah, okay. That makes sense how they got in there. If we use that opportunity to switch the fire extinguishers out with ones filled with the bombs. I see. Then we could set up bombs all over Labo in no time. And no one ever looks at what's inside a fire extinguisher, so we won't have to worry about anyone finding them. It's the perfect camouflage. Alright, then we'll go with that. We're scheduled to replace the fire extinguishers in September of next year. After that, Labo will be filled with bombs disguised as fire extinguishers. So wait, how do you get into areas 5 and 6? To plant the fire extinguishers. If only senior researchers are allowed in areas 5 and 6, and they keep that hidden from outsiders. They also received various orders from Q. As for us, we would like you to physically destroy Labo. It is a symbol of Rokome City's wrongdoings. By destroying it, we can let the world know of our resentment. We have prepared a powerful time bomb that will blow Labo sky high. Plant it inside the facility. Oh god. Alright. It's easy enough to set up that bomb, but I'd rather we do it in a way to prevent casualties. But destroying Labo is a huge benefit to us. If we cause an explosion powerful enough to blow up the entire facility, then won't Labo's staff waiting outside believe that both we and the test subjects died in it? I see. So that way, we'll pull the wool right over our pursuers' eyes. But there's one major problem with that. If I've got this right, in order to get down to Area 0, we have to knock out 2 high-ranked researchers and take them down with us for authentication, correct? But that means they'll be stuck in the facility after the case N is declared. Then they'll get caught up in the explosion. Ukita just smiling at the thought of his bosses dying. Yeah, the time bomb is going to be a pressing issue, yeah. That's true. On the other hand, I think it's far too risky to take them with us when we escape, so I'd rather not. It's a rather tight escape plan. Alright, then how about this? We'll set the time bomb so that it goes off 1 minute after the lockdown lifts. Well, that just means there will be explosions that destroy the rescue workers who come in. No! That should give both of them just enough time to escape. Is there a way we can figure out the time the lockdown will be lifted in advance? Brain Cell's monitor will show the expected time for when the lockdown is to be lifted. We'll check that, then set the bomb's timer for 1 minute after that. Though, to be honest, it's a rather desperate measure. Can't do anything about that. I mean, we're trying to carry out a terrorist plot without killing anyone. It sounds nigh impossible. But aren't we being naive for coming up with that idea? No, it's the right thing to do. We'll be lower than shit if we kill anyone. No better than the guys at Labo. Yes, you're right. Natsuhiko shuddered when he heard their conversation. Did they just say that there's a powerful time bomb that can blow Labo sky high? And that they planted that thing in Labo? But it was set to go off 1 minute after the lockdown ended. Watase, Mr. Ukita, what have you done? But on the other hand, there was something else that was really bugging him. The floral scent. But something's weird. Watase said he wanted to avoid casualties. Like Mr. Ukita said, it's a rather naive idea for a terrorist. Was he thinking that though communicators were monsters, he didn't want to kill any humans if possible? Are communicators and humans totally different species in Watase's mind? It was indeed somewhat strange, but Natsuhiko continued to read through Watase's memories. And thus their plan approached its final stages. Okay, so, question for you, Shy. Is there another game you have on deck that you want me to play, that I could play for the next couple hours? Because I think I want to get to the end of the Watase flashback and stop for the day. But I don't want to just leave you hanging. And thus their plan approached its final stages. It was then that Q sent their third set of orders. We're uneasy about only 2 people carrying out the plan. We would prefer it if you could get about 2 more people for the job. And he'll recruit his buddies. We would like you to invite Mr. Seiji Dojima and Mr. Kazuki Hiyama, Comrade Kasasagi's co-workers, to become our comrades. Watase understood what they were getting at. But though he was okay with just himself being a part of it, was it really okay for him to get his co-workers wrapped up in this terrorist plot? Those guys have the same background as me. Dojima lost his girlfriend in the Great Arson, while Hiyama lost his younger brother. So if they learn the truth, they too should hate Rokume City's barbarism enough to want revenge, just like me. So while he was reluctant at first, Watase eventually contacted Dojima and Hiyama. Please don't show an extended conversation with them. So, how'd your co-workers react to the news? The exact same way I did. They shook with anger and agreed to join Q. I see. Then that means all the necessary pieces are now in place. And thus, Watase and Ukita's plan was now complete. They'd plant incendiary bombs and fire extinguishers and artificially start a fire. Next, they'd cause the WX particle amplifier to go haywire, rescue the test subjects, and cause a case end to be declared. Once the lockdown began, they'd set the time bomb in the facility, then escape through the coolant's drainage pipe. Then, once the bomb went off, all traces of Watase and Ukita's crimes, as well as any way of finding out if the test subjects were dead or alive, would go up in flames. So all that's left is to actually do this, huh? Oh, that explains the explosion that happened in that bad ending where Watase wound up living out Metallica's One on a hospital bed. So all that's left is to actually do this, huh? Indeed. Ukita took out his PDA. Q has sent us one last order to the PDA. I'll read it for us. What's it say? We are grateful for all your efforts, comrades Kasasagi and Ukita. We will now commence preparing the bombs and weapons necessary to carry out this plan. These include NZ-75. These include 100 incendiary bombs disguised as fire extinguishers, a 3-kilogram tetral explosive that will be used to destroy Labo, and 3 NZ-75 pistols for self-defense. The tetral and pistols will be mixed in with the rescue squad's special equipment and delivered on D-Day. Your target is the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization. Your objectives are to destroy the facility and abduct the 2 test subjects. The plan will be carried out approximately 1 year from now, on September 16th, 2030. The anniversary of the Great Rokume City Arson, huh? That day probably held unpleasant memories for Q's members, whoever they were. It was clearly no coincidence that they picked that day of all days to commence their plan. Until that day, each comrade is to make further preparations. Q-style martial arts! There are countless things you must do in advance, such as hand-to-hand and firearms combat training. Naturally, you mustn't tell anyone else about the plan over the course of the next year, to say the least of opening your heart to anyone. Oh, and Watase dumps Kazumi because he knows he's going to disappear after the operation. Rokume City is full of countless communicators. If you open your heart to someone, they might read your mind and find out all about the plan. All communicators are not like us. They're monsters with strange powers. The now deceased Subject A wasn't the exception. She was the standard. Think of all communicators as abominations. Think of Rokome City as a city full of monsters. We must put an end to this abnormal town's history. Man, what a bunch of assholes. You may find that to be a rather extreme mindset, but unless you take precise caution, our flawless plan will come crashing down. Bear all of that in mind as you wait for the day of reckoning. The day where the truth shall be brought to light, and 118 lost souls shall at last rest in peace. Once Ukita had finished reading the long piece of text, he shot Watase a pointed gaze. That's a rare view to voice these days, wouldn't you agree? Communicators are abominations, huh? Perhaps that's going too far, but it is indeed true that we cannot open our hearts to anyone. Yeah, you said it. And so Watase and his comrades began their long year of preparation. All the way until September 2030. The year spent preparing for the terrorist plot passed by in the blink of an eye. Get back to the present, please. We've got all the information. We know everything that happened. I guess this next section is the day of the operation before Natsuhiko meets him. Okay. Oh, my eye's twitching. Hang on a sec, guys. Gonna rest my eye for a sec. I've been having eye twitch problems for the past week. I don't know why it's happening. Maybe I'm just having too much screen time? I don't know. Nothing's really changed from the last, 5 years of my life, though. Okay. How much of this flashback is left? At my speed, probably an hour. There's so much flashback. Holy shit. So if I swap off games now, what else would you want me to play? 'Cause I don't want to play much more of this today. Do you prefer a story or more relaxing gameplay? Well, first, what are the game options in case I recognize one of them? Paranormal Sight and Tinykin. What kind of games are they? Paranormal Sight is a horror mystery, while Tinykin is a 3D platformer with Pikmin-ish elements. Huh. I think I've seen something about Tinykin. A horror mystery. Is Paranormal Sight a visual novel? It is. Okay. I think I'm all visual noveled out for the day. More interactivity. Okay. Excuse me. Have Tinykin and have Paranormal Sight. Why don't I end the stream here, think about that for a minute, and then go live with whichever one you and I decide to go with. Yeah. So that's it for Root Double for today. I will see you guys in a few minutes for another game. Toodles.